There's a unit wired into your dashboard right now, sending out your location every few seconds, and there's a real chance you never agreed to it. I'm going to show you exactly which companies are getting that data, exactly what it's costing you, and exactly how to shut it off tonight. Stay to the end, because the worst one on this list already cost real American families their insurance rates without a single one of them knowing why. Let's start with the brand most of you watching this are actually parked in your driveway right now: General Motors. If you own a Chevy, a GMC, a Buick, or a Cadillac built in the last several years, there's a service buried inside it called OnStar Smart Driver. Here's the part that should make you angry. A man in Florida bought a brand new 2021 Cadillac XT6, and according to the lawsuit he later filed, his purchase paperwork at the dealership never once mentioned OnStar, never mentioned data sharing, never mentioned anything close to it. All he did, weeks after buying the truck, was download an app so he could remote start the engine on cold mornings. That's it? That one download was apparently all it took for General Motors to begin tracking his speed, his hard braking events, and his acceleration patterns, then hand every bit of it off to a company most Americans have never heard of in their life. That company is called LexisNexis Risk Solutions. There's a second one working the same racket called Verisk. Between the two of them, these companies built what's basically a hidden credit score for how you drive, except instead of a bank pulling that score, your insurance company pulls it to decide what you pay every single month without you ever seeing the number or knowing it existed. The Federal Trade Commission eventually stepped in. Their final order specifically bans General Motors from handing your location and driving behavior data over to consumer reporting companies for the next 5 years straight. That's not a rumor somebody posted on a forum. That's a federal order with an actual date attached to it. Here's why this actually works the way it does. In plain English, because the mechanics matter. Your truck doesn't sell your data straight to an insurance company. That's not how the pipeline runs. Instead, the automaker hands raw driving information, your speed, your braking, your trip patterns, over to a broker like LexisNexis or Verisk. That broker then packages it into something called a consumer disclosure report, which sounds boring on purpose, and sells access to that report to insurance companies who use it to help set your premium. That extra layer in the middle is exactly why an automaker can turn around and say, technically, we don't set anybody's insurance rate, while still being the original source the entire chain started with. It's a structure built so that no single company in that chain has to take full responsibility for what happens to you at the end of it. Here's where this stops being just a GM story and starts being a story about an entire industry. The state of Texas sued General Motors directly through its own state law, and according to that lawsuit, over 1.5 million Texas drivers had their information collected without consent and then sold to insurance companies specifically to help set their rates. 1.5 million people in one single state. Nebraska's Attorney General filed suit next. Then Iowa filed its own case. And Iowa's lawsuit is the one that should genuinely worry you, because their complaint says the data wasn't just going to insurance companies. It was also going to data brokers, the kind of outfits that turn around and sell your name, your home address, and your phone number to literally anyone willing to pay for it. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, didn't I hear that GM already fixed this? They did kill the Smart Driver program back in the spring of last year, right after a New York Times investigation blew the whole thing wide open. Owners cheered, headlines moved on. But mechanics and forum owners who've actually dug into the newer GM trucks rolling off the lot will tell you something the headlines skipped. OnStar itself never stopped collecting. The settings just default to on in every new vehicle, right out of the gate, whether you ever asked for it or not. The story said the problem was solved, nobody told you what it didn't fix. And that gap between what got fixed and what got quietly left running is exactly the kind of detail that never makes it into a 30-second news segment, but it's the difference between actually protecting yourself and just feeling like you did. Stay with me, because what's coming in a few minutes involves 5 more brands you probably trust without question, and one of them is going to surprise you more than General Motors does. Let's talk about what's actually doing the talking inside your vehicle, because once you understand this part, the rest of the video makes a lot more sense. There's a small module wired into most modern vehicles that handles the cellular connection, basically a built-in cell phone bolted to your truck. It's separate from the computer that runs your engine and your transmission. That connection module is what's actually sending the signal out, reporting your location and your driving patterns back to the manufacturer's servers, which then get forwarded along to the brokers we just talked about. Your navigation screen, your radio, your basic safety features generally run on a different system entirely, which is exactly why disabling the tracking piece doesn't usually break the rest of your vehicle. The convenience features and the surveillance features are bundled together in marketing, but mechanically, they're not the same thing at all. So let's get practical for a second. If you're driving a Chevy, GMC, Buick, or Cadillac, here's exactly how you shut this off tonight, not someday. Open your brand's app right now, whichever one matches your vehicle. Tap your profile icon in the corner. Go to Settings. Find OnStar Smart Driver in that list. There's a toggle switch sitting right there. Slide it off. It'll change color from blue to gray, and that's your confirmation it's done. 4 taps, maybe 5, and you're out of the program. If you want it gone completely off the books, there's a separate website, gm.com/consumer-privacy. Pick your specific state from the list because what you're allowed to request actually changes depending on where you live, and submit a request to have your data deleted entirely. Or skip the app altogether and just press that blue OnStar button on your rearview mirror and tell the advisor on the line you want the whole service canceled. It's free to cancel. Most owners never once realized that button could even do that. And here's something almost nobody mentions when they walk you through this. Turning the service off only stops what happens going forward from today. It does not erase what's already been collected and already been sold to somebody else. For that, you need a separate request entirely, what's called a right to delete request, filed through the privacy portal. Canceling the service and deleting the history are two completely different fights, and most owners only ever win the first one because nobody told them there was a second one to fight. Now, before you breathe easy because you don't happen to drive a GM product, here's the part that should worry every single person watching this. The same New York Times investigation that exposed GM also specifically named Honda, Kia, Subaru, Mitsubishi, and Hyundai. If you're driving a Honda CR-V with Honda Link active, a Hyundai with Bluelink running, or a Kia with Kia Connect turned on, this exact same pipeline may already be operating inside your vehicle right now, this very minute, while you're watching this video. And Hyundai's situation is genuinely the strangest one on this entire list, the one mechanics quietly bring up to each other. Hyundai partnered with a company called Verisk Data Exchange to feed driving data straight to insurance companies through the Bluelink system. Hyundai's official position is that this entire program is opt-in only, meaning nothing happens unless you specifically agree to it. Here's the problem with that. Multiple Hyundai owners who say they never opted in, who specifically declined the program when asked, reported that their vehicles kept transmitting data anyway. Sit with that for a second. These are owners who said no on the record and their own truck didn't listen to them. That detail matters more than it sounds like because it means the advice you've probably heard 100 times, just don't sign up for the connected app and you're safe, might not actually protect you the way you think it does. So here's your move regardless of what you drive. You can request a free copy of your own file directly from both of these companies, no lawyer required. LexisNexis runs a portal at consumer.risk.lexisnexis.com/request. Verisk runs theirs at fcra.verisk.com. These requests are completely free under federal law, the exact same Fair Credit Reporting Act that already protects your bank credit report. Most drivers in this country have absolutely no idea this right even exists when it comes to a vehicle. Here's something that changed very recently that almost nobody outside the legal world has noticed yet. As part of the settlement General Motors reached, the company is now required to obtain a clear, explicit yes from you before collecting, using, or sharing any of your connected vehicle data going forward. And here's the part that matters to you directly if you're buying a new GM vehicle anytime soon. That consent question is now supposed to happen right at the dealership, at the moment of purchase, not buried 3 menus deep in an app you download 2 weeks later. If you're standing at a GM dealership signing paperwork on a new Silverado or a new Tahoe and nobody asks you a clear question about data sharing, that's worth stopping and asking about yourself because the agreement says they're supposed to bring it up, not you. We haven't even gotten to the part where this stops being purely about insurance premiums and turns into a legal fight playing out state by state with real dollar figures attached to real people, because here's where this gets serious. Privacy protection in America right now depends heavily, almost entirely, on which state you happen to call home. New Jersey passed a law requiring car dealers to fully wipe a vehicle's personal data clean before it ever gets resold or accepted as a trade-in. Tennessee is working on building a statewide registry that would let drivers formally opt out of having their car company collect any of their information at all. Texas has its own data privacy law on the books, the very one behind that GM lawsuit we just covered. And that same law is also the legal foundation for a separate, much bigger case against the insurance company Allstate and a data firm called Arity, accused in that lawsuit of building what the filing literally calls the largest driving behavior database in the world, built off the backs of 45 million Americans. 45 million people. Sit with the size of that number for a second before we move on. That is not a glitch confined to one truck or one bad app update. That is a fully built business model, running quietly underneath an entire industry, while most owners drove around with no idea any of it was happening underneath the hood. If you want straight information about what's actually going on inside the vehicles American families drive to work every single day, hit subscribe and turn the notifications on, because this is exactly the kind of thing this channel exists to dig up. Now here's the discovery that should genuinely sit with you a while, because it proves fixing this isn't as simple as canceling one app on your phone, and it explains exactly why this fight keeps spreading right now instead of quietly winding down the way most scandals do. The Federal Trade Commission didn't just settle with General Motors and call it closed. They published an official statement aimed at every automaker in the country, stating in plain language that companies do not have a free license to monetize people's information beyond what's actually needed to deliver the service a customer asked for in the first place. That's not industry gossip you'd find on a forum. That is the federal government's own consumer protection agency putting it in writing on the record for every manufacturer to read. And this isn't a brand new concern for them either. The agency has actually been watching connected cars for over a decade, going back to a workshop they held on the broader issue of internet-connected devices, then a dedicated connected cars workshop a few years after that, specifically flagging the risk of personal data being collected and quietly repurposed without anyone noticing. That same agency is already known to be looking closely at other automakers right now, which tells you plainly that General Motors almost certainly will not be the last name added to this particular list before the year is out. And here's the number that should genuinely stop you in your seat for a second. The original investigation that kicked all of this into motion found that automakers had been selling location data on American drivers for, and this is the actual phrase used by a sitting United States senator after personally reviewing the findings, mere pennies per driver. Pennies. Your exact location, your braking habits, your daily commute, your weekend trips, sold off for a fraction of a single cent per person, multiplied out across millions of vehicles parked in driveways from coast to coast. That, in one sentence, is the entire business model this whole story is built on. So here's what I genuinely want you to go do this week, not someday, this week. If you're sitting in a GM vehicle, open your app right now and flip that smart driver toggle off before you even finish watching this video. If you drive a Honda, a Hyundai, a Kia, a Subaru, or a Mitsubishi, go dig through the connected services settings in your brand's app, because that same pipeline very likely exists there too, just wearing a different name on the label. Request your own file from both LexisNexis and Verisk. Both requests are free. Both take just a few minutes to submit online. And if you're trading in a vehicle or handing the keys back at the end of a lease, do every bit of this before you drop the car off at the dealership, because once that vehicle is gone, getting your data deleted afterward gets a whole lot harder. If you're buying new in the next few months, remember what we covered earlier. The consent question about data sharing is supposed to happen at the dealership now, out loud, before you sign. Don't be afraid to be the customer who actually asks about it. The salesman might not bring it up first, but you're allowed to. None of this means your truck is evil or that connected services aren't worth having at all. Remote start on a frozen morning, stolen vehicle recovery, automatic crash detection that calls for help the second you can't call for yourself. Those are genuinely good things to have wired into a modern vehicle. The problem was never the technology itself. The problem is that for years, that same data quietly went out the back door to brokers and insurance companies without a single owner ever being clearly told, let alone properly asked. And the honest truth is this story isn't finished. More states are going to pass their own versions of these laws. More automakers are likely sitting in the FTC's crosshairs right now, whether the public knows their names yet or not, and the only real defense you have in the meantime is knowing exactly where the toggle is and exactly who to ask for your file. So I want to hear from you on this one. Did you have any idea this was happening inside your own vehicle before today? Have you already gone in and shut this off yourself, or are you finding out about it for the first time right now, watching this? Are you driving one of the brands we covered tonight, GM, Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Subaru, or Mitsubishi, and never once thought twice about that little blue button or that connected app icon sitting on your phone? Drop it in the comments below, because I guarantee a lot of people watching this video right now are about to go check their own app for the very first time tonight, and your story might be exactly what convinces a neighbor or a family member watching this to go check theirs too. YouTube thinks you'll want to see this one next, and it picks up right where this one leaves off. I'll see you over there.